and we've been very much supporting Racing Welfare's Mental Health Awareness Week. There's David Arbuthnot. You've just seen him. I don't need to give him the big build-up because everyone can see you now, David. It's great to welcome you to the studio, and people will remember you as a very successful trainer for many years, but you are turning your hand to something very different and, dare I say it, without wishing to offend anyone in the training fraternity, probably rather more important and rather more vital.
Yes, I've when I gave up training in 2019, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I didn't want to retire, so luckily through Racing Welfare, they got me talking to a career coach, and by talking, I got probably about sort of 7 or 8 sessions, and the more I talked about what I wanted to do, and it came to me that possibly through my career in racing, the stresses of being a trainer and everything like that is possibly I would like to learn and study counselling. I have to say I knew nothing about, during my career, I had absolutely no idea what counselling was. So they got me onto this course, and I started this course in Reading on level 2, which about 2 years ago. I'm now on level 4. It's a journey at the moment.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating journey, and one I want to talk about much more. How long were you training racehorses for?
I took out my licence in 1981 and retired in 2019. So I had a first stint.
Yeah, so it's the guts of 40 years,
yeah,
really. When you look back on it now, how do you view it? Do you view it with pride, with pleasure?
I loved the whole. I mean, irrespective whether it was going well or badly, I did. Yeah, I loved the life. Yeah. Before that, I'd been assistant to Fulk Johnson Horton for 7 years, and I'd worked in racing before that for different trainers. So, really, I'd been in racing all my working life.
And we were talking to Tom earlier on, and I don't know how much of the interview you were listening to, but yeah, he was saying that he just couldn't imagine doing anything else. He couldn't imagine getting off that wheel. Was that you in that time as well, when you were in it?
Well, we never thought of getting off the wheel. Yeah, I mean, it was your way of life, and it's your racing is your family. If you see what I mean. Yeah, I mean you're so involved in all aspects of it. You're not. Yeah, I'd never. I in a way I'd possibly like to still be trained today, but that but I made that decision, and. It's a life. Yeah.
So why aren't you training today?
It was a decision I made, and it concerned probably about. You probably don't know that there was a case came up for me, which one of my horses failed a dope test. And it hung over. It took 2 years to come to the BHA to the case to come to sort out, and it turned out that one of my staff had put his bute had fed the bute to the horse who was going to race that day, and then rang up the BHA to warn them that one of my horses was going to the races with on bute. We went through the case, and although they agreed that I was. This has been done by the lad.
So deliberate sabotage.
Yeah.
Of somebody with an axe to grind, and they accepted that.
Yeah, they still find me, but it was completely out of my control. And I just felt I was a little bit let down by the BHA, and it just. I decided probably that's time to give up.
That's a tough fine to take. I mean, that strikes me as a huge. I mean, I won't lie. I don't know the forensic details of this case, but I'm only going mainly on what you're telling me. But I have no reason to doubt you, David, at all. But that's pretty brutal, isn't it? That not only the betrayal of somebody, a member of your own staff, is going to sabotage you like that, but also that even though you are believed, the wheels of justice still crank against you.
I think it's more the time
And you had it hanging over you for 2 years.
We're talking about sort of mental health awareness and everything, but I mean, to have that hanging over for 2 years is a long time. It might not have been quite 2 years, but it was certainly the bulk of 2 years. And it's it's as you say, someone having something against me to do something like that. But it was also the process of but obviously when they come in, they came in. They didn't tell me originally that someone had rung up and they knew this. So that when they first came in, they I was out training the horses on that day, and I literally had to come back in. And suddenly, they're all over the yard, which is fair enough because
they had a tip off. So
yeah. And I just felt possibly I never quite understood why, when the call went into the BHA, it was never recorded. Which you thought, when you get calls like that, they would record calls so they could, have evidence of it. So anyway, that's the reason I gave up. But that's now history. I sort of moved on from now.
But it's a pretty seismic moment, and often people who retrain as counsellors or psychotherapists say that the impetus has come from a traumatic moment in their lives that's kind of reshaped the way they think about things and people. I mean, would you say that that's the case here, that it has sort of reshaped the way you've thought about life?
Yeah, I think, yes, it has. And I also would say that with what I've done now, what I'm doing now, I would say that it's reshaped the way I possibly would dealt with people during my training career.
Interesting.
In counselling, we are taught to see the situation from almost in that person's shoes. See it from their point of view. And many times, I think back when I've had situations either with staff or whatever. If I had looked at it from their picture, I might have, reacted to it differently.
And would have created a slightly different working atmosphere because of that.
Yeah.
Tell me though how difficult that is when you're in the cut and thrust of a racing yard.
Well, obviously, as a trainer, you're under a lot of the time, most of the time. If you think in my training career, probably my best year was, I think I did a 20% winners to runners ratio, but so that's still only 20%. Often I was sort of around 10 to 15%. So you think of the winners 15%, losers the other percentage is quite high, isn't it? So you are always. There's always stresses of some sort, and again, in counselling, what is important is the therapeutic relationship. Yeah? So a relationship, you're building up a relationship with your client. Now, if you think in racing, there's many relationships. There's relationships between you and your staff. There's relationships between you and your owners. There's relationships with you and the authorities. All this, there are relationships, and especially when the relationship, what we say, fractures or whatever, is going to cause stress.
Mm-hmm. And in your time so far as a counsellor, what have you learned about how people cope with and internalise stressful situations?
What I've learned, and I must say I'm only a trainee counsellor at the moment.
But yeah, so you're on your. But it's always best to ask someone who is actively studying, because all the information.
I think, obviously during Mental Health Awareness Week, I mean, I think the most important thing is that people must believe that they can talk. I'm working now on my placement for a charity. It's called Time to Talk, mm-hmm. which is what really is so important, and not to bottle it up, and keep it to yourself, and also understand that in counselling it is totally confidential. That people can come and say exactly what they feel and believe, and that it won't go any further.
And again, you're thinking about your own life through the prism of what you're doing now. Was that something that you were guilty of yourself, bottling up rather than talking?
Very much so, yeah. I was always the one to say, I'm fine, how are you? I'm fine. And that sort of just keeps everyone away at arm's length. And that does not need to be. And I think it is so important that by talking through something, it just takes you from what you've bottled up and keep you in the present. The more you talk, the more you can move down the line to maybe resolving or lessening that issue.
So just being able to share and having the confidence to share. And I guess part of your role is then encouraging people that it is okay to do that. People might want to, but there's sort of societal barriers in their way. I mean, and how much do you think that's still manifest in horse racing particularly, which still has a fairly significant degree of machismo about it, perhaps less than it used to, but still to a certain degree.
I know when I started, I mean, it's the belief that you're showing weakness mm-hmm. by expressing and talking, which is, I don't think, true. I think what is right and what is true, I think it's very brave to, come and, open up. And, we talk about making yourself vulnerable. Actually talking about your problem, opening up, it takes a lot of courage.
Do you want now to specifically apply this to counselling within the horse racing industry, or is it going to be broader for you?
No, the whole reason I started on this was to help, or I don't know, I'm 70 next year, so I'm getting on. I don't know whether and I've still got another year and a half to go before, if I qualify, and it's quite tough road to get there. So whether I will practice myself, I don't know, but what I want to do is create or help or advise, whatever, create, actually within racing a facility for counselling.
That sounds like a wonderful initiative, and I'm sure you're getting all the help that you need in that regard from Racing Welfare. How are you enjoying being a student again?
Well, as I said before we came on, I said that I think the last time I wrote an essay was 50 years ago, and I don't think it was a very good essay. So I'm enjoying it, but it's quite hard work.
Well, hopefully in a year and a half you'll be back to show us the fruits of your labour and provide a fantastic service to the industry. David, thanks so much.
That's fine.
David Arbuthnot, retraining as a counsellor after 40 years with a trainer's licence. We'll be right back after this.